venerated guru for rape. Thousands of his followers are refusing army orders to leave his compound. We'll hear from our correspondent there. Tropical storm Harvey continues to ravage the U.S. city of Houston and the surrounding coastline. A year's worth of rain is expected to fall on the area in a single week.
We've received over 2,000 phone calls requesting assistance. They're calling from their homes, from rooftops. We've rescued folks off the roads from their vehicles. They've been stranded.
And enjoying a glass of Prosecco this summer? Time to reach for the toothbrush. The booming bubbly has got dentists fizzing.
If you sip it all day, you've got all the items that would cause decay. Wait an hour or so, let the enamel remineralize, brush your teeth then.
You're listening to the BBC World Service.
Hello, I'm Marion Marshall with the BBC News. Police and soldiers have been deployed in force in the North Indian city of Rohtak, where a controversial guru is about to be sentenced for raping 2 women. A curfew has been imposed in Sirsa, where his movement is based. And Barasaneta Rajan reports.
A special court has been set up inside a prison in the city of Rohtak for the sentencing of Mr. Singh. All roads leading to the prison have been cordoned off. Schools and colleges have been closed. Mobile internet services remain suspended. The self-styled holy man, who claims to have millions of followers, is facing a minimum of 7 years in prison. His followers are in disbelief and argue that it was nothing but a conspiracy to defame him. There are concerns that his sentencing may spark another round of unrest.
In the past few minutes, we've just heard that he's been given a 10-year jail sentence. Tens of thousands more people in Houston in the United States have been ordered to leave their homes as the city grapples with devastating floods and rain continues to pour down. 2,000 people have already been rescued. James Cook reports.
Emergency alerts have become the soundtrack of the city, warning of flash flooding and tornadoes. In the suburbs, I watched as evacuees were taken to safety in boats, huddled together under blankets and towels. But Pedro Palomo took the hard way out, wading more than a mile in water up to his neck after his vehicle became stuck.
My truck got stuck, so I have to find a way to come home. Yeah, so I have to walk all the way there. And the rescue boat was over there, but I was helping somebody else, so yeah.
And still the rain comes down.
German prosecutors say a nurse serving a life sentence for murdering 2 patients may have killed a further 84. Relatives of patients who died in clinics where 40-year-old Niels Hergel worked had urged police to investigate further. Damien McGuinness is in Berlin.
The former nurse could turn out to be the deadliest serial killer Germany has seen since the Second World War. He injected patients with dangerously high doses of heart medication. Judges say the aim was to shut down the patient's cardiovascular systems in order to then resuscitate them and win approval from colleagues. But many of the patients died because of the drug he had given them. During the court case 2 years ago, prosecutors presented evidence that he had killed at least 37 people. But now, after dozens of bodies have been examined, the number of victims could turn out to be more than 100.
2 people have been confirmed dead and 25 more are missing following a landslide in China that engulfed the outskirts of a town. Video footage shows the moment the side of a hill collapsed onto dozens of homes in Guizhou province. Rescuers have pulled 6 people from the rubble, including the 2 who died. World news from the BBC. China says India has withdrawn its troops from a disputed border area, ending a lengthy standoff in the Himalayan region. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said it was pleased that the trespassing Indian personnel, as it put it, had pulled back to their side of the boundary. Robin Brandt reports.
It started when China began building a road through a key strategic position in land claimed by both China and the Kingdom of Bhutan, which is a close ally of India. India sent troops to prevent further construction. Chinese state media used amateur images to try to show an incursion by Indian forces. In brief statements, India said that expeditious disengagement of border personnel was now underway. China's government said it would continue its sovereignty rights in accordance with the historical agreement.
One of China's richest men, Wang Jianlin, has denied rumours that he was detained as being prevented from leaving the country. Reports suggested the billionaire was stopped in the city of Tianjin from flying to Britain. But his company, Dalian Wanda, said the reports were groundless. Bonds and shares linked to the firm tumbled before recovering. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accused Iran of building sites in Syria and Lebanon to fire precision-guided missiles at Israel. Mr. Netanyahu said Iran was trying to bring about its declared goal of eradicating Israel. There's been no comment so far from Tehran. Mr. Netanyahu accused the UN of failing to condemn weapons smuggling to the Iranian-backed Hezbollah militia. The French actress Mireille d'Arc, one of the stars of French cinema in the 1960s and 70s, has died at the age of 79. She had a brain hemorrhage last year. Mireille d'Arc often played opposite Alain Delon, her off-screen partner for 15 years, and also starred in Jean-Luc Godard's 1967 film Weekend. Her cinema career was cut short by a serious car crash. BBC News.
You're listening to the newsroom on the BBC World Service. I'm Celia Hatton, live to India and Houston later. But first, China says Indian forces have withdrawn from a disputed border zone after a tense standoff. I've been discussing the two positions on the dispute with our correspondents, Sanjoy Majumdar in Delhi and first, Robin Brandt in Beijing.
In a brief statement, the government here said it would now continue its sovereignty rights in accordance with the historical agreement. But I think there's no doubt that on the Chinese state media, another outlet for the government, they see this as a clear win. I mean, Xinhua, which is the state-backed news agency, is reporting that India has now removed its trespassing troops from China's territory. So in the standoff between these two Asia giants, it's clear China sees this as a win.
And Sanjoy, what about you? How is this being seen in India?
Very similar to China. There's been a slightly complicated statement that's been put out by the Foreign Ministry describing it as an expeditious disengagement of border personnel. There's a bit of confusion over what's actually happening on the ground, quite simply because no one's actually allowed anywhere near there. I mean, this whole standoff began a few months ago because Indian soldiers were trying to prevent the Chinese from extending a border area into a region which would be uncomfortably close to India's own positions. And it's not very clear if this means that border construction project has been stopped completely or is to continue. And I think once we know what happens there, we'll get a sense of whether this has been a victory for either side. The sense here very much is that with the key talks coming up between the Chinese and Indian leadership over the next week, this has been basically seen as a climb down from both sides because nobody really wanted this to escalate any further.
And Robin, do you think that there was a real risk of violence breaking out in the border region?
There was certainly a rhetoric coming from some on the Chinese side here, reflecting a willingness maybe for some kind of military confrontation. I mean, China, the far bigger economy, it has expansionary ambitions in and around India, and there were some that wanted some kind of confrontation with India. I think that's quite clear.